Many debate who is the UFC's most dominant fighter. But what if I told you that person might be a woman? Women's bantamweight and featherweight champion Amanda Nunes certainly has a seat at that table. Since 2014, Nunes has been on an absolute tear, racking up 10 straight victories. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find any significant female record in the UFC that she doesn't lay claim to. She's retired legends in devastating fashion. She holds wins over 6 current or former UFC champions, including one against Chris Cyborg in under a minute that defied belief. Saturday night, she has a new challenge as she'll take on Felicia Spencer and defend her featherweight throne for the first time. The Lioness won't be around forever, as she's certainly closer to the end than the beginning. Something tells me that after she's done, many will wonder why they didn't appreciate Amanda Nunes more in the moment.
That's how you start a show, and with that we say hello and welcome to a fresh hour of CBS Sports HQ. Hakeem Dermish here with CBS Sports combat analyst Brian Campbell. UFC continues to deliver, giving us more live sports. We've got UFC 250 in Vegas, and what a night it was. Two-division champ Amanda Nunes looking to defend her featherweight title against Felicia Spencer in the main event. Nunes making the first defense of her featherweight belt after winning the title with a 51-second knockout of Chris Cyborg in December of 2018. The greatest female fighter of all time, Amanda the Lioness Nunes, looking to become the first double champion to successfully defend both belts simultaneously. Now, our partners at William Hill confirmed there's a $1 million bet placed on Amanda Nunes at -600, largest wager ever taken on an MMA event in William Hill's 86-year history. $1 million on Nunes would pay $166,600.
That's confidence right there going up to that betting window. Wow.
Early in round one, Nunes connects with a powerful 1-2 that stings Spencer.
Look, we know Amanda Nunes is the greatest. How would she look though 17 months removed from fighting at this weight class? Turns out it was crisp and powerful, vintage Nunes early.
Has Nunes against the cage, but Spencer trying to get out of there. Nunes gets the trip takedown, and then we go to round 3. Because Nunes really put on a clinic, connects with left hook that falls to the right that knocks Spencer's mouthpiece out.
You got to give Spencer credit for taking the damage. One thing we said coming in, what's her best elite skill? It's toughness and durability. Turns out in the end, though, the more Amanda Nunes landed that big right hand, that's all that Spencer had going for her. She was tough as nails. She could not find an avenue to any kind of success.
At that point, the dude that laid down $1 million was feeling pretty good, right? I mean, it's over at that point. Late in round 4, Nunes just going to work, putting on, it's a clinic. A clinic.
You could have stopped this in round 3, 4, 5. She's the greatest of all time for an absolute reason. You saw that over 25 minutes tonight.
Amanda Nunes wins via unanimous decision. The $1 million bet cashes. Dude won $166,000. Probably the easiest money he's ever won. Maybe. Nunes to win was -650. Via decision +350, which was sneaky good. Sneaky.
Yeah. How about a little bit of history, too? Amanda Nunes, first female to defend 2 different titles. First to do it as the champ in the moment. Just adding on to that legacy of greatness.
She is a GOAT. Let's take a look at this because it is her 11th straight win. Tied for the second longest active win streak in UFC and longest win streak by a female fighter in UFC history. Her 13 wins are most in UFC women's history. The GOAT. And take a look here. Valentina Shevchenko, maybe a super fight on the way?
You got to ask yourself, who can take that kind of heat? How many former champs have she beaten and retired already to get to this point?
Welcome to the Geico 15. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Here with Brian Campbell, let's welcome in UFC Hall of Famer Rashad Evans. Call him Mystic Shad. He gets everything right. Nunes and Spencer. And Rashad, I want to come to you first here. Did you think that fight should have gone 5 rounds? What was your reaction that it went the distance?
Well, I didn't think it was going to go 5 rounds. I mean, Nunes just put a clinic on her, just had her beaten every single place. And, you know, I felt bad for Spencer. She really had no ability to take the fight where she wanted to. You know, I knew going into the fight that stand-up was a glaring difference between the two of them. But I thought for the most part she'll be able to use her kicks to be able to close the distance and be able to pressure Nunes against the cage and have some sort of success that we've seen Jermaine Durandamy have in her last fight. But Amanda Nunes had none of that. And I have to think it was due to the fact that she was fighting up, 145 instead of 135. So she had a little bit more gas in her tank, and it looked it. And she showed, looked very confident and very comfortable at 145. It honestly looked like she was a stronger champion at 145 than she is at 135.
Yeah, we mentioned coming in, if there was a good time to fight Amanda Nunes and you were thinking about an upset, it might be right now with the quarantine, with Nunes coming fresh off that ankle injury. But she closed any possible openings for Spencer to have any success. I was really impressed with Nunes' takedown defense throughout this, and obviously the accuracy never gassed out. As Rashad mentioned, looked great at this weight class. This is dominance that you just don't have any historical comparison. She's put together a complete game. She can finish you at any time. And as we saw tonight, if she finds someone stubborn, crazy, tough enough to go the full distance, you're just not going to have any moments against her.
I mean, what's next for her? I mean, is this like any chance we see a Valentina Shevchenko super fight? Is that just us saying, hey, we'd love to see that? Or is there any actual like reality that we'd see that?
I mean, she's cleaned out 2 different divisions. I can give you a name in each one. Megan Anderson at featherweight. It'd be an interesting fight. Maybe Aspen Ladd at bantamweight with another big win. But they're empty cupboards for a reason. You'd have to take flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko, who fought Nunes twice, really had a lot of success, including that rematch that could have gone either way. I like Shevchenko by decision in that one. It was a toss-up. A third one would be the biggest fight from a marketing standpoint. But as things stand right now, unless Mystic Shad, is holding a name in that cupboard, I just don't see anyone on the roster who you can favor to even have, 1 or 2 rounds possibility to steal from her.
Nah, it's got to be Shevchenko, or no one else, because honestly speaking, I think that both divisions need time to mature, grow some contenders in a weight class, grow some interest in a weight class. Right now, she's just, bleeding the division dry for all the talent and all the names that come up through the rankings. And at the end of the day, that does get boring and redundant, but I mean, you can't help but marvel at just the spectacular, run she's been on, what she's been able to do today. Set her up, like you were saying, BC, in the beginning, to do something that no one has ever done as being a double champ, which is defend the belt. And that's an amazing thing that we're seeing here right now. So Amanda Nunes in a league of her own right now, but I think Shevchenko fight will be the best matchup for her right now.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome to see. Indeed, Amanda Nunes, the GOAT, 13 wins, most in UFC women's history. Now, that was the big story coming in terms of the main event on UFC 250, but we're also getting news on this night that Conor McGregor has decided to retire. He has announced this on his Twitter account saying, hey, guys, I've decided to retire from fighting. This is the 3rd time that he's announced that he has decided to retire. Of course, the last 2 times he didn't retire. BC, what do you make of this?
Knee-jerk reaction, I have to go. Again. Look, obviously, Conor McGregor knows how to steal the spotlight, knows how to put himself in the headlines. I think if I got to chalk this up to anything, it's the recent run of big-name UFC fighters sort of finally taking a stand for their own financial future. We've seen it with John Jones. We've seen it with Jorge Masvidal. You could argue that 2-division champion Henry Cejudo just recently retired and walked away from that standpoint. Some tough negotiations going on at the moment, Hakeem, between UFC President Dana White and the biggest stars in the game. With no live gate at the moment under the quarantine, UFC's wallet a little bit thinner than we've seen. You have to believe Conor McGregor, who looked so good in dispatching Cowboy Cerrone in 40 seconds earlier this year, isn't necessarily telling the truth here.
Rashad, is this for real?
Yeah, I mean, it's for real as Conor McGregor can be right now. What he's doing is what he always does. He's trying to shed light on whatever he feels the injustices that the fighter they're going through right now. And you know what? I do understand that. I understand the fighters need to get paid, and that's a big priority. And fighters need to come and stay together. And it's interesting to see fighters are doing this right now, but like I said, right now is a very bad time for the whole situation, and this could be a perfect storm that could amount to fighters holding out on a larger scale if this continues at this rate. But I mean, at this moment, the UFC really don't have it. They don't have the live gates. They're not making what they were. So at some point, there needs to be some kind of compromise.
He's 31 years old, 22-4. One of the greatest fighters of all time that we've ever seen. I mean, he puts on a show. He's electric. He's a massive monster name when we watch this week in and week out when he's on a card. Outside of the money, Is that what it all comes down to? Is that what it all comes down to for him? Because you know that he loves the spotlight. You know that he loves to be at the top of the sport.
I don't think you can mention anything but money right now when you consider Dana White has said publicly in the past few weeks UFC expected to lose upwards of $100 million this calendar year because of that lack of live gate during the current quarantine. It's hard to imagine any big stars being able to come back at the moment right now when you consider not just UFC's history of not paying fighters on an equal share of the big-time boxing names of team sport star athletes. This may be the wrong time for the athletes to take a stand in theory because the money isn't there. But when is the right time for a sport that doesn't have a union or a fighters association? This is finally some big names who have leverage and something to lose kind of pulling their resources together. It's very interesting to watch.
I certainly see that side of it in terms of leverage. It's a great point. But Rashad, when you think about it, we have Fight Island on the horizon. Wouldn't you think that Conor wants to see how that plays out before retiring, announcing this retirement? Maybe it is true, but wouldn't you think he'd want to see that through before he decided to call it a career?
Well, I don't necessarily think that he won't see it through just because he's saying what he's saying right now. I think right now it is a catalyst for him to be on Fight Island. You know, at the end of the day, you know, people want to see Conor fight, and Conor knows his worth. So, you know, he knows how to get what he wants. He knows how to say the right things to get the attention, to get the things that he wants. So, you know, maybe who knows, the negotiations happen behind closed doors and what he was trying to get pulled off. But at the end of the day, Conor, when he makes moves like this and say something like this, he's an emotional person. So you can assume that it was something done wrong and negotiations are not working out to the way he likes it. So he's trying to implement some kind of covert strategy to get what he wants. And at the end of the day, you can't blame him because he's the one who brought fighters' pay to what it is right now, and he really broke the bank, making the money that he did, and allowed other fighters to start making, you know, millions of dollars as well too. So, you know, he has been a strong force when it comes to being the pioneer as leading the money for fighters. So I like what he's doing, but at the same time, we'll see how far it really goes.
BC, you mentioned it. Jorge Masvidal, the latest to call out UFC because of a contract dispute, said, hey, let me go, among other things, as he went on Twitter and said a lot of things about the UFC and his current situation. We know last week, light heavyweight champ John Jones asked for his release. Then it said he would give up his title. You see here Jorge Masvidal say, don't tell me about a pandemic when reports today show highest stock market's ever been. Everybody getting back to work. You buying an island. Stop playing us in the fans. Hashtag the awakening. What do you make of all this?
It's very interesting. We knew that some of these potential problems out there for fighters existed. I never expected for it to all hit the fan at the same time. Yes, the fighters are independent contractors. They do have exclusive contracts, though, where they can't just leave and fight elsewhere. Masvidal, in particular, had been in negotiations with the UFC to take on welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. According to Masvidal on Twitter, he mentioned that he was offered half of the purse he made in winning that ceremonial BMF title last year against Nate Diaz at Madison Square Garden. For him, that's not going to work right now during this situation. And he used in recent interviews the words revenue stream. We've seen in reporting done by multiple outlets that UFC in 2019 reportedly paid 16% of their overall to the athletes and the fighters. You compare that to the pro team sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, you're looking more at 50%. This is fighters probably at this moment seeing the writing on the wall, trying to take a stand for what they believe they deserve.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I say, you know, it's an unfortunate time, but at the end of the day, timing is everything. And maybe this is a time that it needs to happen because it's something that has been needing to happen for a long time as far as fighters coming together to form a union and making sure that we have the rights and we're protected by those rights in the union. So I do applaud that, but at the end of the day, it's like it's tough because we're in a situation where we don't know what's going to happen on an economy level, and it will be hard for the UFC, even if their intent was right to say we can guarantee you paying this, when we don't really know what tomorrow brings from an economic standpoint. So I do understand their hesitation and their hands being kind of tied in the situation from the aspect of not knowing what tomorrow brings.
A bevy of big-time storylines coming out of UFC. Of course, you can count on CBS Sports HQ, Rashad Evans, Brian Campbell to break it all down here on HQ. Sit tight, men. Back with BC and Rashad in a moment. We're going to run down the rest of the card, UFC 250 in Vegas. Have a night bantamweight division. Co-main event, former bantamweight champ Cody Garbrandt taking on Rafael Assunção. Garbrandt hasn't fought more than a year, been knocked out in his last 3 fights. Assunção has lost back-to-back fights. In BC, this really a prove-it fight for Cody No Love Garbrandt.
This was a crossroads fight straight up for the former champion, but it turned out Cody Garbrandt 2.0, poised, quick, patient, and powerful with those accurate strikes.
Yeah, over a minute left in the second round here. Connected with a right, knocks down Assunção. Garbrandt minus 1,600 live odds during round 2. Then under 10 seconds left in round 2, Garbrandt loading up and just absolutely lights up Assunção. Buzzer beater.
Crown it. That's your knockout of the year. I don't need to see any more. I don't care what month it is. Nobody does that to Rafael Assunção. He pulled that from the deep, dark depths.
They should have had a cutaway of our reaction in studio. Oh, my goodness. Assunção falling off the stool, cannot stand up following the knockout.
Look, you got to understand, if he loses this fight, Cody Garbrandt, we don't talk about him anymore as an elite fighter. Oh, now suddenly, who wants to be a bantamweight title contender? We're talking about Cody Garbrandt once again.
He is back, wins by knockout in the second round at the buzzer. 69% of the total dollars wagered at William Hill were on Cody Garbrandt to win. Minus 165 via KO. Some plus money there at plus 175. Over a round and a half at minus 225. And if you're betting by round with Garbrandt, round 2, plus 650. Cody Garbrandt improves his MMA record at 12-3, finishes 10th career win by knockout as he snaps a 3-fight losing streak. Number 1 contender fight in the bantamweight division. Number 2 ranked Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling's won 6 of the last 7. Got to get through the number 4 ranked bantamweight Sandman. Corey Sandhagen, perfect 5-0 in his UFC career. 10 seconds into round 1, Sterling catches the kick. Back Sandhagen up to the fence. This fight was awesome.
Who wants to be a bantamweight title contender? You want to make a statement, you waste no time. That's what the Funkmaster did.
Not wasting time at all. A few seconds later, Sterling secures the back of Sandhagen, cranks him all the way back down to the canvas. Somehow, Sandhagen able to escape, but not in the end. Sterling was an animal in this one, never stopped fishing for submission. Soon after the failed attempt would lock in another rear naked choke that put Sandhagen to sleep.
We said coming in that this could have been for the vacant bantamweight title. This is as good of a fight as you can make in this division, and Aljamain Sterling made a heck of a statement as to who might be the best 135-pound fighter in the world. Henry Cejudo vacated his title. Aljamain Sterling stands up.
He said, Dana, where you at? Sterling extends his win streak to 5, and his last 3 wins have come against fighters in the top 5 of the division. Picks up his 10th career bantamweight win. If you had Sterling, minus 115, good for you. Via submission, paid plus 600, under 1.5 rounds, plus 275, and Sterling in round 1, plus 1,000.
Sandhagen hadn't lost in 7 fights, and let's not forget, Aljamain Sterling fresh off of wrist surgery. I didn't see any rust right there.
Funkmaster getting funky. Welterweight bout between Neil Magny and Anthony Rocco Martin. Both Brian Campbell and Rashad Evans picking Neil Magny in this one, the owner of 15 career UFC victories. He's won 3 of his last 4 fights. Not much happening in round 1. We go round 2. Anthony Rocco Martin picks up, takes down Magny to the ground. After round 1, Magny minus 160, Martin plus 120.
As this played out, you knew it was going to be an interesting fight to score. Even though Martin seemed to control the first 2 rounds, was not landing much clean.
Magny would take over in round 3, took the fight right back to Rocco Martin, landing a sequence of punches right to Rocco Martin's face. Final 30 seconds. Magny and Rocco Martin taking turns, landing blows, and a final push to the end here.
Magny was vintage in that 3rd round. Stepped on the gas tank, pushed it. You could have argued for a 10-8 round. We still didn't know as they went to the scorecards, though.
Unanimous decision. A little surprising.
A little surprising that 2 of the 3 judges had it 3 rounds to 0 for Magny. You thought they did have the right man, though, overall.
Hey, but you and Rashad Evans looking smart. Picking Neil Magny to win at minus 150.
Here's what's interesting. We didn't know if he was looking at more of a gatekeeper role in this division. Hey, look out. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Always a tough out. We've never really talked title contention. If he keeps on this path, you never know.
16th career UFC welterweight win via decision, paid plus 140, over 1.5 rounds. And the fight going the distance, yes, minus 200 as Magny wins via decision. First fight on the main card, Eddie Wineland against Sean O'Malley, the budding star. 96% of all the money wagered William Hill was on O'Malley in this one, which was a great decision.
Great choice if you like old-timey mustaches against rainbow-colored hair. But you want to see a rising star, Sean O'Malley, jump through your TV set.
Walk me off at a minute 54. Just says good night to Wineland. Clean KO, no extra shots needed. O'Malley's like, I mean, this is business as usual for him.
25 years old. He missed 2 years, remember, for a USADA violation. He's back. 2 quick wins in just a few months. And you want to talk about the brightest prospect in the game today. Oh, he had a message for the UFC afterwards. Pay that man his money.
Yes, keeps his perfect record intact, 12-0, 4-0 in the UFC. He records his 8th career knockout. He said he's the best striker in MMA right now. He was absolutely incredible in this one. Again, 1 minute and 54 seconds. He predicted a first-round knockout. He got a first-round knockout. By the way, I had O'Malley via knockout minus 130. Straight
Not
cash.
bad, not bad.
Straight cash. Thank you, Sean O'Malley. Got a notable prelim fight. The Dream, Chase Hooper, youngest fighter on the UFC roster, 20 years old, making his second UFC appearance. 95% of the money wagered on Hooper. The veteran, Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, the underdog, plus 175 early in round 1. Caceres stinging Hooper here.
This is one-way traffic from the start. Look, at 20 years old, this was a heat check for Hooper. Turns out that striking game needs a lot of work.
Yeah, whiffs on a head kick, striking off all night. Later in round 2, Hooper off his back in reverse position. Starts to land ground and pound to the top. Live odds after round 2, Caceres minus 700, Hooper plus 500. But that wouldn't be enough here. Late round 3, Caceres showing his dominance on the feet. And the last 15 seconds, Caceres taking care of business.
It's been an up-and-down run for Bruce Leroy. He's been inconsistent a lot. This was one where he put the strikes together and, most importantly, avoided the ground, which was Hooper's dominant standpoint.
Winning by unanimous decision, the underdog pays off at plus 175. If you had it via decision at plus 330, over 1.5 rounds at minus 190. The fight to go the distance, yes, at plus 140. Geico 15 continues. Back here with Brian Campbell and Rashad Evans, a.k.a. Mystic Shad. For the second night in a row, for the second weekend in a row, he goes 4 for 5 with his picks. He just has the ability to see into the future, and he just gives you winners.
He's a Hall of Famer, too. Let's not forget
He is a Hall of Famer. Of course he's a Hall of Famer. 4 for 5. I mean, that's giving you some money. I mean, the only thing he missed on here was Aljamain Sterling defeating Corey Sandhagen. And
any chance it was he who put down the $1 million bet on Nunes?
It could have been. It could have been. Rashad's got that. All right. So what a night it was for the bantamweight division. Well, let's start with the co-main event, Assunção Garbrandt, and we get a buzzer beater, Rashad, from Cody Garbrandt, just loading up and knocking out Assunção. Your reaction?
Man, that punch came from the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest part in the ocean, and it was like the Loch Ness Monster or something like that. Just grabbed and just knocked out Assunção. So much power in that shot. And, you know, you just kind of felt the whole fight that Garbrandt was getting more confident and just kind of feeling the instruction from Mark Henry, and he really got into his groove, and you've seen the flashes of old Garbrandt, but very improved Garbrandt, almost like a Frankie Edgar-ish type with his foot movement, his herky-jerky style, not allowing Assunção to get a beat on when he's going in his timing, and just that right hand at the end of the fight, at the end of the round. One of the coolest walk-offs, one of the best knockouts I've seen in a long time.
And we already had enough big names in this bantamweight division and potential title contenders. It's an embarrassment of riches right now at 135 pounds to add the former champion back into that mix. But he deserves it based on the performance that we saw. This was the guy who disarmed Dominic Cruz over 5 rounds to win that title just a few years back. You love seeing somebody regain that confidence, take the talent that we know was in there, and find a way to filter it. New coaching, we give him a lot of praise for that. But you just look at this division tonight, Hakeem. I mean, I always talk about how historically deep lightweight is. I love me some women's strawweight. Make room for bantamweight. It might be all of our favorite division at this point.
Yeah, it is stocked. Another bantamweight fight. Aljamain Sterling against Corey Sandhagen. And goodness gracious, a first-round submission in favor of the Funk Master. We're watching it here, and it was a clinic by Aljamain Sterling.
Look, this was your favorite fight fans' favorite fight coming in. This was your people's main event. It did not disappoint, but it was a surprise. This was such an even fight on paper. We really didn't know in the 3-round small cage exactly what it would look like. Like a lot of people, I thought Sandhagen might be the dark horse for this division. Turns out it was too quick to count out Aljamain Sterling. 5 wins in a row, but he bounced back so beautifully from wrist surgery, took Sandhagen's back with aggression, stayed on him after the first attempt at the choke, was unable to sink in. He made this look easy. And now we're talking about a night in which the bantamweight's got the showcase. It's a vacant title right now. We think it's going Petr Yan against Jose Aldo based on what Dana White has said. I think Aljamain Sterling has something to say about that. And I think you could sub him in right now for that vacant title. He looked that great.
I mean, at the end of the day, none of those guys can get into the country. So, I mean, he's the last man standing, and rightfully so. Just absolute devastation from the beginning of the fight, complete focus, and was just a monster the way he went across the cage and just, strong arm Corey Sandhagen and got him into the position that, we seen him finish the fight in. But more importantly, I was impressed with just the physical prowess of Aljamain Sterling. I know Aljamain when he first got into the UFC, and he was always like the little guy, but now he's grown into his weight class, and mentally he's grown into it, but physically you see him just growing into the fight, quite a specimen that can go in there and just dominate guys like he did Corey Sandhagen. Hats off to Aljamain.
Would love to see him get a title shot, and perhaps one day Sean O'Malley will get himself a title shot. We saw a buzzer beater, we saw a first-round submission, then we saw Sean O'Malley, Rashad, with a walk-off.
Hey, listen, I was calling him Sugar, Sean, with the sugar, but now he got the sugar. That was raw. That was completely raw. Listen, he earned the moniker Sugar. That was so sweet, the way he walked off, and no more damage. Very controlled, very skilled is Sean O'Malley, and he has something for this next generation. He has something for the UFC. This kid is a special talent, and I hope he's brought up the right way.
Yeah, he made it about the money in this fight, meaning, hey, UFC, sign me to that contract extension. Get me off my quote-unquote rookie deal. Hey, I think he deserves it with the style, the swagger, but the devastation to be able to finish a veteran like Eddie Wineland, a guy who, if anything, was going to come in and be durable in this one. He made it look easy. I think UFC's got a problem here. There's so much talent at 135. I don't know which direction to go to set up the title picture. It kind of feels like we have a de facto tournament right now. You can't forget about Sean O'Malley. He's so marketable and so jumps through your screen with the flashiness that UFC may have to, their hand may be forced sooner than later to get him into that mix.
Time now for the Geico 15-second statement. And which fighter made the biggest statement at UFC 250? Rashad, I'll start with you.
I got to go Aljamain Sterling. He showed me that he truly belonged there in a way, in a fashion, against a guy in Corey Sandhagen, which, in my opinion, was the top of the weight class. And as BC said, the dark horse. He was my dark horse, too. But Aljo showed us both we were wrong.
Hey, shout out to Aljo here, Rashad. I got to go with your son, though, Sugar Sean O'Malley. Like I mentioned, he's going to be in that title picture soon because the ability's just so good. But the suave, the swag, the marketing, that whole potential, that whole side of it, dyeing his hair the rainbow colored. If you knew nothing about MMA on this night and you sat down and watched UFC 250, it's going to be hard for you not to say, I got to see that guy again. Let me see. Something special just happened. This was Sean O'Malley's night on a night where a lot of people tried to make that claim.
What a night for the bantamweight division. That was fun. All right, for more from Brian Campbell, Rashad Evans, check out the State of Combat podcast. You can expect breakdown of the latest news, full event previews, big name interviews. The State of Combat podcast. Download and subscribe today. And that'll do it for the Geico 15. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com to see how much you could save. For Brian Campbell, Rashad Evans, I'm Hakeem Dermish. Thank you for watching the Geico 15. UFC 250 delivering yet again.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.